taking his fame, his songs, and monetizing it. And he was a man when it came to business.
In a typical year, how much was he taking in? How much was he spending?
At the time of his trial in 2005, it was estimated that he was bringing in about $20 million a year. That came from royalties from songs, both his own and the Beatles catalog. He was never going on the road anymore, and the way a musician really makes a lot of money is going out on the road. And so he was only bringing in $20 million a year, but he was spending.
Michael Jackson earned more money than nearly any entertainer in history. Over his career, he made well over $1 billion. Yet when he died, reports said he was hundreds of millions of dollars in debt. So where did all that money go? It wasn't only Neverland. It wasn't only lavish shopping. Michael poured his fortune into dreams, business deals, charity, art, security, and one of the most costly lifestyles the world had ever seen.
Michael Jackson as a businessman, how would you rate him?
Michael Jackson, in the peak of his career, was a stellar businessman. As his life wore on and he became more of a reclusive individual and less of an entertainer, enablers, entourages, handlers really screwed his finances up, and I think he withdrew from Michael Jackson, the brand, very much so, and allowed people to kind of hijack his finances. And
Michael's earning power began when he was a child, leading the Jackson 5 as its frontman. He was already a major chart star before his teens, but his solo career transformed him into a business empire. Off the Wall in 1979 proved he could lead without his brothers. Catalog. Then, in 1982, Thriller changed everything. It became the best-selling album of all time, selling over 65 million copies worldwide and making Michael the biggest entertainer on the planet. The follow-ups, Bad, Dangerous, and History, kept the momentum going through the 80s and 90s, backed by record-breaking world tours that packed stadiums across 5 continents. Beyond albums and touring, Michael generated revenue through merchandise, licensing deals, and one of the most famous endorsement partnerships in advertising history. His multi-million-dollar Pepsi deal, plus publishing royalties from his own songwriting, meant that across 4 decades, Michael Jackson is estimated to have earned well over $1 billion in gross career income. If touring and album sales made Michael famous, one deal made him a mogul: the purchase of the ATV Music.
So then I come back and he goes, so I want to talk to you about something. He goes, I want to talk to you about your publishing and see if you're interested in selling it to me.
You wanted to buy your publishing?
Yeah.
Right, because I remember I interviewed Eddie Griffin.
Yeah.
Right, and those two were close.
They were, yeah.
Very close.
Yeah.
Eddie actually took Michael to his court date and everything.
Yeah.
And Eddie was telling me about the story that Michael was telling him when he was working with Paul McCartney on one of their projects, right?
Strangely enough, the story begins with Paul McCartney. In the early 1980s, while the two were working together on songs, McCartney explained to Michael how music publishing worked, that owning a song's rights could be more valuable than performing it. McCartney offered it as friendly advice. Michael saw it as a business opportunity.
Go right to his trailer, get his people on the phone. Paul don't find out till the next day Michael done bought the Beatles. Say, how can you buy BOs? How can you buy BOs? He said 60, I gave him 64. That's a lot of money. Girl, it's mine.
Your publishing's mine.
Definitely.
In 1985, Michael discovered that ATV Music was for sale, a catalog containing 251 Beatles songs among thousands of others. He outbid several major players, including entertainment executives and even McCartney himself, eventually buying ATV Music for roughly $47.5 million.
Motivation in going public now? Well, Pierce, Michael is no longer with us, obviously, and we felt that we have a message to get out to talk about the Circa Mortal show and various other questions that we felt would be good to address at this time. You knew Michael for well on 30 years, an extraordinarily long relationship with him.
At first, many people in the music industry believed Michael had paid far too much. But 10 years later, the purchase looked like the smartest investment of his life. In 1995, Michael combined his catalog with Sony to create Sony/ATV, a joint venture that became the world's largest music publishing company, eventually holding rights to songs from artists including Bob Dylan and Taylor Swift. That one deal brought Michael tens of millions of dollars in annual royalties and became the financial foundation he depended on for the rest of his life.
Listen, first of all, it was a little bit of a different Michael.
Okay.
Michael Jackson, 15 years ago, was the greatest superstar since Elvis. He was the greatest.
He had his day. He had his day.
He had his day, and he blew it.
Right.
And, some plastic surgeon blew it for him, okay? I mean, frankly, if he didn't have... it started with the Pepsi-Cola, with the bomb that landed on his head and screwed him up, and it went on. And, Michael, it's a very tragic thing. Michael Jackson's a very smart, very good guy who truly has changed a lot. And
Paul McCartney has shared the story behind Michael Jackson's purchase of the Beatles' publishing catalog, a deal that would go on to become one of the most discussed business moves in music history.
See where that big machine is inside? That's where I play all my games. And that's the tennis court.
Running Neverland.
But you can't talk about Michael's spending without mentioning Neverland. In 1988, Michael bought Sycamore Valley Ranch in Santa Barbara County and transformed it into Neverland, a private fantasy world inspired by his childhood dreams. The 2,700-acre property was completely rebuilt with a full amusement park featuring carnival rides, a private zoo filled with exotic animals, a working railroad with its own station, a movie theater, expansive gardens, and elaborate landscaping.